All right, and here we go. Another episode of Tools, Talents, and Techniques. I'm your host, Dustin Sutton, and with me today we have Jamar Williams. He is the founder and CEO of Promo Drone. We're going to talk a lot about that and about his journey and everything that he's learned along the way. So here he is. Jamar, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. So I know we just connected recently through some serendipitous universal things. So to be on your show so quickly and build a connection with you has been great. So thank you so much.
No, right away. As soon as I heard about what you were doing, I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And especially the way it came to me, but from a trusted resource. And then somebody else was like, you should really talk to Jamar. It's like, talk about serendipity. The universe sometimes just all winks at you sometimes. So I'm really excited to dive deep into your journey and what you're doing and how you got here. So, but before we do that, could you just briefly say who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah. I'm a Baltimore boy now living in Southern California and San Diego, which I'm so privileged to be able to have a business in this part of the world that's so environmentally beautiful and welcoming to just small business growth. I'm a creator at heart. So first and foremost, before anything, I like to see the world from a different perspective and connect dots where most people don't connect dots, whether it's through music, whether it's through art, whether it's through building businesses with technology. I just enjoy the process of ideation and bringing things to fruition and then running my big old mouth about how cool I think this stuff is. So,
well, you're in the right place for that. You're in the right place.
Yeah. I don't mind being the mouthpiece for cool stuff. So,
well, and you know, that's what's so fun about this and why I'm so excited about having this conversation, because there's a certain excitement in entrepreneurship and there's ups and downs and all the way around. And you could feel it when somebody really believes in what they're doing and who they are and what they're doing. And you really epitomize that. You know, you hit that nail on the head. I want to talk about how you got here, though. So let's talk about the origin story. You bring up Baltimore. Where does this story begin?
Yeah, so this is the adventure. This is my trek across the country. So, you know, I don't have an aviation background. I was raised by a tech father. So my dad's very tech savvy. So I was fortunate enough to grow up in a household where I got to lean over my dad's shoulder, watch him build computers. And you're talking early 90s. You know, I still remember getting our AOL CD-ROM in the mail and popping those things in. You know, that was our first version. But to be fortunate enough to be exposed to that so early, it kind of, you know, it was the duality to some of the challenges that come along with growing up in Baltimore, you know, so to speak. But I went to school in New Jersey. I got my degree in business management in New Jersey, and I spent a lot of time in New York wanting to be close to the music scene initially, right? My you know, as hip hop artist, writer, producer, and performer, I was like, I want to be big in the music industry, right? So my whole thing was my way to express myself has always been through my voice and through creative writing. Really, that was my big thing. But really, it's telling stories in a cool way and getting people attracted to it. Got into banking after going to college as a way to, you know, pay the bills, time to get out from under the parents' roof and be on my own. So I got a job in banking and didn't realize how much I would enjoy it. It was kind of one of those like necessary evils where I want to be rapping. I want to do my big music career. I don't have to go get a job. You know, that is my job. But I got into banking and it really started to open my eyes up to other ways to interact with people, not just from this creative music standpoint, but adding value to them from like a fiscally responsible, like helping people make important decisions about their money in the path of that, you know, and the impact that that's going to have on their families. And I was like really excited about that. So now I'm in this, you know, this new corporate career at various different banks in the noble profession of banking. And it taught me a lot about customer service. It taught me a lot about building strong relationships. It taught me a lot about caring about someone else's journey and their ability to be successful as well. And I really took a liking to it, but it wasn't necessarily, you know, my number one passion, but it taught me something and added a lot of structure to some things. And I always equated to Clark Kent and Superman, right? So my Clark Kent would be at the desk during the day, helping people like, you know, like he was at the Daily Planet. And then after work, I would take my suit off and then the S would be revealed and I would go off and do my music, right? So yeah. I was kind of a musician by night, banker by day. And
because there's a lot to explore. You just said a lot of things, but in between there were some gems. So, okay, let's go back to when you were growing up and you talked about the AOL. And were you strong in like math growing up? And because here's the thing, you have both sides, right? Because you worked in banking, you have that side, but then you also have the music and the creative side. How did you navigate that growing up when you were, middle school, high school age?
Yeah, middle school, high school age, I was a very different person. Yeah, I wasn't. Math was my worst subject. I was always into English, history, and science. Right? I was, combining things, creating reactions to things. That's like a form of creativity to me. So it's a different way for me. So I was very good in science. I was very good in English, and I really loved history. So I loved learning about what's come before us and some of the things around that. But math, I didn't have. It was boring for me. And so in banking, fortunately, you do math, but computers do most of the math in banking. They're mathing for you most of the time. I was a relationship person. So after becoming a teller for just 2 weeks, I got my first promotion into what was called a relationship banker role. So now I'm sitting at the desk across from people, getting to understand them. And I was really good at that. Ultimately, having my own branch at 2 different banks and becoming a institutional trust guy and a business banker. But really, banking was kind of the foundation. But what launched it and leveraged my skills was relationship building. That really is what made me successful in banking. And banking is really about relationships, gaining trust, being able to do the right things for the right people. And then money is one of the most sensitive things people, have in their life, other than their family and their health and their religion or whatever they believe in. It's like, their money, it's the most trusted thing. So really it comes down to relationships more so than math. How do you speak to someone in a way that they're going to relate to and do right by them so that they can trust you and you have the best intentions to do the right thing. So that's really what banking was for me.
When you were in college, when you were in school and you were MCing, DJing, like just in the music, like what was your main mode? I know you do a lot of different things, but like what was your
rap was my thing.
Focus?
Like other than getting out of college successfully, going away for school was the best thing that could happen for me from a personal development standpoint. It got me out of Baltimore. It got me around a new environment and new people. And if you've gone to college outside of, if you're actually staying on campus and living on campus, it's like a mini ecosystem of the world. There's diversity there. There's diversity of thought, of character, of people, of potential, of outlets and creativity. So I had an audience now, right? So now this is now I have a fixed audience of thousands of people that I can express myself to. So I would do spring fests. I would do all the rap. I would do all the concerts, the battles, and get trophies. I would do it all. So I was like a superstar on campus. So what that did was it started to help build my confidence, right? It gave me a sense of value that, I think I was looking for in the wrong places, which got me into some situations when I was younger. And then going to college, the light bulb went off of like, oh, wow, the world is bigger than just that small area that I was accustomed to. So I got to see the world from a different perspective. I got to feel like my voice had value for the first time. And that made me like never want to go back to like my voice not having impact, not having power, and not feeling comfortable being able to express myself. So that was the beginning of my ability to like really have an outlet with my who I am and my beliefs in myself.
That's a very powerful statement. And you said the light bulb moment. Do you remember the specific time, or was there like a certain event that you were like, oh yeah, I got this. This is where I need to be.
Just a general sense of freedom of being away from at home. And I was very fortunate because I had a mom, dad, 2 moms, right? A stepmom and a mom, a biological mom and a dad. So like not a lot of my friends was that fortunate. And when you get around more people, you realize that, even though I knew that growing up a lot, and then I was like, oh, and I'm like, not for nothing, there's a lot of beautiful girls here at campus, right? And it's just different. It's different. So now you get to understand how to interact in different ways to attract the things in life that you want and what you do and don't want. So it was just a great time for me to kind of to be in my own skin and learn what my skin was and find my own footing around all types of life experiences. So I think that's overall light bulb is what that was. I love freedom. This is what it feels like to carve your own path. I think that's what the light bulb moment was.
Well, and also I would say with that freedom, I mean, it's great that you found things to attach your, maybe not attach is the best word, but to find your identity in getting that positive feedback from doing those things. But also sometimes it can be difficult. It can be challenging, that you're also doing that. And so then when you talk about going into your career and you're doing one by day and one by night, how did you straddle that? Like, did you talk about the Superman when you were Clark Kent, or was it something you
Yeah,
kept them?
yeah.
Did you keep those worlds separate?
No, I didn't keep them separate. I mean, I didn't go full in on both, at the same, but I didn't necessarily keep them separate. Like the people at the bank knew about my music and they were supported, very supportive. And most of the time they were like, dude, why are you here at this bank? Like you need to like go off and do that. Like you're really good at this and you can make it doing that. Which we'll talk about later as to why I got out of it and what really made me focus on promo drone. I guess why not now? Is segue. Maybe we'll just segue to that now.
This
Since we're
is
talking
your
about it, right?
this is your stage.
Let's just
man.
do it because
Go
I'll
ahead.
probably forget it. So let's talk about it now. Yeah. So when I got to San Diego, I moved cross country with an ex girlfriend of mine who we had a fantastic relationship for a long period of time until recently, and I had the fortune of her career being able to move us from Baltimore to San Diego. And I lost my job in banking during the whole banking shakeup in the 2008 2009 era. So I moved to
Yep.
San Diego in 2010. Thinking I would just get right back into banking, right? Put the suit on, and I was like overqualified for jobs. I couldn't find a job to save my life, no matter how skilled I was. There was 1,000 bankers that were all looking for jobs, and I think the universe was saying, dude, if you can be half as successful, a fraction of the success that you had for other folks at the bank, and you trust yourself and all the things that you've learned about your confidence and using your voice as your leverage, and trust yourself, believe in yourself, and you'll do all right, kind of deal. So I had a lot of support. I moved here, and after like not being able to find jobs, and having a supportive partner, I started performing, doing more music around San Diego. So House of Blues several times, like from small coffee shops all the way up to like, House of Blues type stages with hundreds of people. And I enjoyed it. So when you're a musician, as I see all those guitars in the background, so I know you can relate. It's like muscle memory and training, right? Like the more you do it, the more instinctual it becomes. So rap to me and hip hop became so instinctual that I stopped feeling challenged by it, right? So I wasn't inspired. And fortunately, I had met a guy here in San Diego who introduced me to videography and cinematography through shooting content for my songs. And then one day he came to me and was like, dude, you want to help me build a drone? And I was like, well, a what? And he's like, this was 2011, 2012, right? Like 13 years ago. And I said, what? He says, yeah, you put a camera on it and you fly it around and it'll help get shots from. So the same kid that used to look over my dad's shoulder and learn how to build computers, that he's always very deep. He's inside of me no matter what. So you start talking about building drones and stuff, that instantly triggers that like side of me that's so familiar. And next thing you know, I'm leaning over some other shoulder and we're soldering drone cables together and calibrating rotors and all these things. I had no idea this tool actually existed. And this was from a little known company at the time called DJI, right? Like they're massive now, and you could never imagine the drone industry without the likes of a DJI. But at one point, you'd had to order their parts in a box. The drones didn't come fully assembled. You have to literally assemble your own drone. So that stimulated my curiosity. And then the banking side kicked in. And I said, well, who's using this? How would you use these drones? He was like, well, we would fly it to shoot videos. Well, who would you shoot videos for? Businesses, et cetera, real estate. And this was before the whole real estate drone thing. I was one of the first drone pilots, and with my old business partner at the time, to get into using drones for real estate. So the business development side of me, the customer experience side of things that I learned in banking, the relationship building, allowed me to go out and start finding agents and finding businesses and building those relationships. And now I'm shooting videos and flying drones for that kind of stuff. And the music, which wasn't as challenging for me, was being replaced by something that was a brand new challenge for me. And that started to take precedence because I was inspired by the newness of it. I was inspired by the opportunity to have my impact there. And then one thing led to another. And as we were flying drones, people were coming out of their houses. What is that thing? Oh, I've heard about those. And that curiosity led me to say, okay, if people are coming out of their house to look at my drone, and that means they're not watching television, they're not on Facebook or Instagram or some other app, right? Good, bad, or indifferent, whether they love it, hate it, or threatening me with it, they're paying attention. And if you can get somebody to pay attention, even for more than a fraction of a second, that's advertising. That's marketing. So what would happen if I could capitalize on that attention by putting some sort of advertisement, marketing, or message on there that would allow me to say, hey, because you're looking at my drone and you're already compelled to look at it, I've got you. I've got what's called engagement. I've got an impression, which could lead to some sort of positive outcome. And that was literally the birth of Promo Drone. The homeowners in San Diego paying attention to my drone gave me the idea to start a business where people look at my drone intentionally.
So there's a lot of different lessons that you've learned and tools that you've gotten from these other aspects of your life. But as most entrepreneurs, all entrepreneurs know, it's not a straight line. It's not linear. Now that you've been in business and you've gone some ups and downs and spread some more ups and downs and some more ups and downs, can you walk through like some of the biggest lessons that you've learned, especially let's start like earlier on, because everyone's like, oh yeah, like this is how it's going to work. And then you like hit a roadblock or something happens. You're like, didn't see that coming. But like, what's been your journey as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I would say first, just try to be as authentic as you can to yourself. Right. And I know that's kind of like this, cliche thing to say, but the more aligned you can be with things that you feel is in your purpose or something that you actually are genuinely caring about, the more you'll be willing to tolerate the ups and the downs, right? So do something for the purpose and the passion of it, and that can have impact, not just for the money or because it looks glamorous, because you'll burn out sooner than later. And you have to have tenacity and consistency and all those things to sustain any business, especially as a startup, when you don't come from necessarily the most affluent backgrounds, of things where you just don't have money at your disposal to waste on trial and error. Also, I would say, be patient and realize that you don't know what you don't know. And there's a lot of things out there that we think we want, and we think that things are going to have a certain outcome, but you have to be open to the idea of pivoting and changing and maybe restructuring what your initial dream was in order to get the best out of what you want, from your journey. The other thing is find good people to surround yourself with that have gone through the process, that'll keep it real with you, not only about how good you are, but where you need improvement, right? That'll help you, because that'll help you navigate some of the decision making in a way where you don't have to repeat as many mistakes, if you can learn them. My dad used to always have a saying, and I don't want to get too, I don't know what the rating is for this, but I'll try to keep it PC. My dad would always say, you don't need, what smeared in your face to know that it stinks, right? Kind of deal. So, so if you can avoid...
By the way, you can say whatever you want. We can...
All right, there you go. Well, my dad would say, you don't need shit smeared on your face to know that it stinks, kind of deal, right? So what he's saying about that is if you can learn a lesson from someone else's mistake, you don't have to repeat the same thing, right? So connect with people that have gone through it, that can offer advice, but also know that you're going to have your own journey, and no matter what, you're gonna have to go through the process. So find something you're passionate about. Know that you don't have all the answers. Be open to making pivots and changes, and surround yourself with people that have gone through the experience that can offer some perspective that'll help you feel like you're not on an island going through it.
Yeah,
that's some of the fundamental things that have helped me.
Sage words. So let's talk about mentorship or surrounding yourself, because not all mentors look alike. Like you said, just when you surround yourself with people, they could be older, younger, different industry. How have you gone about finding those people in your life, or has it been an intentional way that you've done that?
It's been intentional, but it's been the product of things that I've affiliated myself with, right? So one thing that I did early with this business is start joining business accelerator programs, right? Like look for the programs in your area that are usually free, that don't take equity, that are community based, that want to see businesses grow, because our communities are incentivized to create economic advancements, right? We want to create jobs. We want to put people to work. We want to have sustainable products that can grow and scale and have the impact on the world, right? So that's capitalism, but a positive, healthy capitalism, right? Not the greed and everything else that comes along with stuff, but positive, healthy capitalism that allows us to take our life in our own hands, create products and services that can inspire people and create jobs and create economic incentives and opportunities, not just for you and your family, but for other people. So these programs are designed to help leverage that, especially in underserved communities where maybe the resources are lacking. So no matter what your demographic is or whatever your background or experiences are, there's an opportunity for you to align with programming that'll put you in the room with the right people, the right mentors, the right advisors. And then it starts to build your mindset. It gives you a perspective on, oh, wow, I didn't even know this existed. So that whole, you don't know what you don't know, put yourself in a room full of the right people and they'll start to show you things that you didn't know. So as you start to uncover new things, you make a natural alignments with people. And then people will say, oh, I know a person, I know a guy or a gal that will be great to help you with, understanding your finances or understanding you with how to structure your sales or to help you review your sales agreements. And a lot of times these are altruistic people who have time, who have the passion and the alignment to want to help people that they see a little bit of themselves in. So put yourself in the right rooms, go out and look for it. But if you just sit at home and you're like, I have a business and you're scratching your head, every moment and you're stressing out your spouse or your kids, you don't want that. Yes, that's going to happen naturally to some degree, but get out of the house, go find some programs that are people that have already done it. And those things will tend to start to flow into your world. So.
That's amazing. And so being intentional with that. So have there been any specifically that have been the best for you, or like certain people in your life that you're like, oh, that person was the turbo booster for what I'm doing?
All throughout my entire career, I've had people that have believed in me, and I'm so grateful. Like, I think when we think about development, not just professionally, but personally, one of the things that I've come to realization in the last few years is just gratitude, appreciation, and just how many people have poured themselves into helping me be successful. Like there's no such thing as a overnight success or a self-made millionaire, right? Like that, the concept of, yes, it could be your idea and you're building up, you're one putting in the sweat equity more than most people, but you're not on an island. People are coming in and out of your life that are providing lessons, bringing opportunities, resources, perspectives, financing, whatever it is. But locally here in San Diego, I've been part of several programs. Connect All at the Jacob Center, that was a massive program that really, really helped. They're affiliated with Connect, which is also a great group that has helped me. So Connect All at the Jacob Center, the Brink through the SBDC, that they've been helpful in a lot of ways. I've done the Cybertech community cohort. I've done several, man. I'm like always in one. I haven't done one recently because I'm kind of like, all right, time to I'm taking those lessons and really, really applying them. And I've become more of an advisor and mentor myself now. So now I've taken all their advice and mentorship and helped get my business to a position where we're destined for some really great things. And I find that other entrepreneurs are coming to me now, and now I'm taking on some of that advisor mentorship role. I love having interns, so I love grooming new talent. I love exposing folks to things because I believe exposure is the way to success, right? Getting people out of their comfort zone, showing them things that they didn't know existed. And when they go back to their environment, they're like, oh, wow, I can't unsee it now. So I want to be there. I want to do things that way. But I would be nowhere near where we were or even have the level of potential if it weren't for those people.
That's amazing. And I'm glad to hear you. Well, first of all, Connect. I have not been really affiliated with them yet, or been involved in any of their programs, but I have been involved with the Brink. So shout out to the Brink. They've been good in many ways. But again, it's like, even though people have a lot to offer and can show you certain things and lessons, and I imagine for what you're doing is that, yes, there's the business principles, there's the marketing, there's the, legal, there's a lot of pieces, but what you're doing is cutting edge. There's not a lot of people, maybe zero people that have done what you're doing. So it's one of those things where you think about, like, there's tons of resources and people that want to help, and that's great. But sometimes when you're doing something new that's novel, I mean, you're not setting up a bookkeeping practice or like a general liability. It's just, you're doing something so new. So how do you go about navigating that? And then how do you see the principles being standardized? Like, what's been your experience in that regard?
Yeah, I'll just keep it straight up and down, bro. It's challenging, to be honest. Like, I love it, so you have to love it. But being first with something, there's a big educational curve that comes along with it, right? Because you have to introduce a new methodology of thought to people, and not everyone's as receptive to that process because it takes deliberate action to do, right? Like cognitive thinking is something that you have, you know, think about to do, where we're used to convenience. I believe that, the whole reason we create and invent things is so that we can make life easier, right? Like we don't invent things to make our life more difficult, like intentionally. Like it may happen as a unintended consequence, but every product that's ever existed came from someone that said, hey, if only we could, or I wonder what would happen if, or I don't like the fact that, right? And they decided to create something that had to go through some process of like, oh no, we love horses. We don't think that thing with wheels will ever be anything, right? The thought of flight, only birds do that, right? What do you mean a human could be in the air with birds, right? That's crazy talk, right? Oh, people on the moon, that thing, we don't even know what that thing is. I can't imagine us ever being up there, right? So at some point, we've had to challenge traditional thinking in order to create something that had to go through its tests where you're going to have non-believers and you just have to stick to it. So it just comes down to that tenacity, being able to see the world in a way that most people don't, finding the people that align with that vision over time, and a little bit of dumb luck, along the way, right? Sometimes it's just like, the universe is rewarding me, or the universe is trying to teach me a lesson. So in our case, I'm fortunate that, yes, we're new and we're doing something that's cutting edge, but our industry has started to get more adoptable. It's been successful in terms of seeing the value of what drones in general can bring. So when I first started flying drones, this sounds crazy. People were like, well, what is that thing? Why are you over my house with that robot? Now, everybody knows what a drone is. They've seen it. You can buy them at Walmart for $30. And now we're like, what are these drones flying over New Jersey? And everybody's freaking out about all that in a whole other way. But
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. Let's talk. Let's do it.
If that's fun. But before we go there, I just say one more thing about on the business side of things, and then we can start talking about UFOs. We can get to the business of UFOs.
Let's do it.
You mentioned pivoting, and sometimes you have to do different things and pivot. Like, what have been the largest pivot points that you've had so far with what you're doing? Because again, you're putting something out there. You're like, I see this. This is the way it's going to be, and I'm going there. Here's the business plan, and we're doing this. What has changed over the years that you're like, oh, well, maybe you got to do this a little differently or that a little differently?
The biggest change for us was COVID, right? So what happened was when I first started the company, I'd never envisioned that we would be manufacturing or be a supplier of drones. I always thought we'd be a service company, meaning we fly the drones, we go out there and do the work, flying the ads or flying for whatever purpose. So our first big pivot came during COVID when, we forgot our first rounds, like friends and family that put money into the company, and that allowed us to invest in like a DJI drone. And then we, found an engineer in South America, Colombia, that helped us design a frame that would fit our drone, that would carry a static banner. And then we found a printing company locally that would print the banners that are customized to fit our frame. And right when we're ready to like go out and start building customers, because we had events lined up, we had people ready to fly it at volleyball tournaments and golf tournaments, boom, COVID hit. There's no more tournaments. There's no more events. There's nothing. So all of this time and energy we built to finally get to a point where we were ready to like launch something, it was like, now we can't use it, because everybody's indoors and there's no more events. And then what happened is something special happened that kind of gave us that moment of clarity, where our phones and emails started ringing for something different. It wasn't the people looking for events to fly. It was people looking to buy our tech. And they had the same drone, and they said, hey, if I already have that drone, can I just buy your kit to turn my drone into an ad drone? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, well, how much does it cost? How do you do that? And I was like, this amount. And I just slide the number across the table kind of deal, right? And I'm like, and they're like, okay. And I'm like, okay, all right, cool then.
Like, wait, I forgot a decimal point, please. Sorry, wait.
Yeah. So but what happened was I realized that there was a market bigger than what I initially visioned as just a local service company or something that could scale locally. Now it's international people calling me, asking me to use my technology to help do what we're doing in our area in their market. And I'm like, wow, this went from a little local idea to an international prospective opportunity for
franchise,
us not to service,
almost.
but to manufacture and sell them to folks, right? Like it's way bigger margin selling it than doing the service. and you eliminate a lot of the risk and liability by being the operator, by, having other people that are just as qualified to fly them do it. And I can help them build their business. So going back to that relationship management from banking, seeing the value of helping other people achieve their dreams and being kind of that steward of that. Now I get to build something that does that on this side of the world for me now, not the bank, but for my own business. And that led us to our first pivot of becoming more a manufacturer and supplier than a service provider, right?
Oh.
And then we've had another pivot, I would say, in the last 2 years, where since we started to go digital and look at programmatic outdoor marketing. Well, hey, if this drone's in the air and it's giving messages, what if it can help save a life, not just promote a product or a sponsor or a QR code for some sort of, commerce-based transaction? What if it's a missing person alert? What if that is a shelter-in-place alert? What if that's something that could save a life? So then we've expanded our focus out of just aerial marketing and advertising to actually public safety and emergency response communications. So those two things have given us some leeway there.
That is so amazing. And with one time, well, the way I think about sometimes, like, you never know what's through the door, because there could be several other doors, but you got to go through that first door. And I feel like you just epitomize that when you're saying, like, oh, we did this, and then, oh, look, it led to that. Look, and I read recently that you can only connect the dots backwards, really. When you look at, like,
Exactly.
how this all happened, it's really hard to foresee, because you don't know what's on the other side of that door until you walk through it.
No.
So that's amazing.
We couldn't have planned that. We couldn't have written it we would have struggled for a million years to try to, nobody could have predicted a pandemic that would have caused everybody to think. And then they're sitting at home trying to figure out ways to do things differently and how to, so it is as destructive and as detrimental as COVID was. And I send nothing but positive vibes and love to everybody affected by it. If you have to find a silver lining in everything kind of perspective, it gave us an opportunity to leverage some of the government funding to put into R&D for us to figure out a way to advance our product. It gave people a chance to slow down and be all on the same page as a globe for the first time in, I don't know if ever or how long. And people had time to say, okay, what do I really want to do with my life? And where do I want to go from here with things? And we were part of some people's story, and that we couldn't have written it out. We couldn't have planned that at all.
Man, that's amazing. And congrats on your success. I mean, I know
Thank you.
As an entrepreneur, it doesn't always feel that way, but, I mean, I know it. I know it.
And you're doing some great stuff too, man. I'm so inspired by what you're doing over there, man. Like it's, and you've got this diverse thing happening with being a founder and having the podcast and then trying to be creative and having a family. I know how demanding that can be, man. So kudos to you
thank
too,
you.
Just for being able to create opportunities for folks like myself to even have a platform.
Yeah, well, I mean, absolutely. And what you said before about going, where you find joy, and I feel like there's so many things in my life that I'm exploring more, and I've had this podcast for over a year now, year and a half, and I love it. I get to have in-depth conversations with people doing great things, get to develop relationships, get to give people a platform to showcase what they're doing. So I love it. And the ranges stuff, again, you never know what door you're gonna walk through, but to see that develop and how that's happening, I wouldn't have guessed in my wildest dreams that this would be happening. So I pinch myself sometimes. BCREN, there's so many different things, and even my day job, which is commercial real estate with Meisner, I love it. I mean, I get to work with our clients, our team, the community. It's just all good stuff, and it all comes from a place of exploration and seeing, like, this feels good over here. Like, I want to do this. I want to try that. And I love it. So I appreciate you. Thank you for saying that.
Kudos to you too. Kudos to you, sir.
Yeah. Let's talk about these UFOs. let's do this. As of now, it's mid-December 2024. So people that are listening to this in the future, what's going on over New Jersey right now? What's your take on all this?
Yeah. This is an interesting topic. First and foremost, people ask me all the time, is that your drone? Is that your drone? So I'll preface with, for those who don't know what our drone looks like or what it is, could easily be mistaken for what they are classifying as a UFO. Like, we have large scale drones. Our drones are about 3.5 to 4 feet long drones. and they are outfitted with two ultra bright LED display panels on it that are used for literally illuminating messages and projecting, at 5,000 nits, and you can put whatever you want on there. So you literally could just have it strobing lights if you want to, versus, so people could easily identify something like this at night for something, that it's not. So that sets up a framework for understanding how drones operate. First and foremost, tinfoil hat guy in me, will always say, we don't know everything. Like we'll never have access to everything until it's so apparent that there's nothing else that can be done, right? And even then, there's probably a little bit we still won't know. But with these drones, there's a certain way to operate drones in compliance, meaning 90% of the drone operations are during the day, and they're in certain airspaces that have different classifications, that have different levels of modus operandi to access, right? If you're in Class G airspace, you can fly your drone, as much as you like within a 400 feet altitude limit generally. When you're in Bravo, Charlie, or Delta airspaces, you have to get some sort of approvals, or, sometimes the approvals are instant. Sometimes they have to go through the FAA, some person at a desk somewhere is reviewing it. But generally speaking, drones are in the skies now. There's over 1 million registered drones in the U.S. and probably double or triple of that people that just haven't registered their drones because they don't know they need to, or they just don't care to. So you're going to see lots of things in the air. And as a society, the only data we have is data we've seen secondhand through videos and things like that. And we live in a world of AI. We live in a world of misinterpretation. All I can say is, if the drones really were bad drones, there would be some sort of regulatory body, governing body that would have intercepted these things by now, right? In terms of, unless we want to get into this whole UFO thing, but barring that, it's a conversation for another day.
Okay.
And I'm into this stuff. I'm reading a book called The Elegant Universe now, and it talks about string theory and alternate dimensions and things like that. And, but without having enough data to support that claim, it would just be, and a guess, like anything else, my own tinfoil hat. I don't know what people are saying. I know that we have seen things that have been misidentified. I know we've seen things that are misclassified. And all we have to go on is the FAA saying, hey, these are drones, which you're going to start getting used to seeing drones in the air. They may be bigger drones, but a drone can be as big as it is if that person has authorization to fly that drone, right? Up to 55 pounds you can fly under what's called FAA Part 107 regulation. So that's the weight ceiling to have this certain certification to fly drones. I'm a FAA Part 107 certified pilot myself, meaning I can fly drones for money commercially and in compliance as long as they meet certain restrictions. Our current drone's a 47-pound drone with our payload on it, right? If people are just used to seeing little small drones and our drones up at night with flashing lights on it, they might mistake it for a UFO. So I give a little flexibility in that area. I think what happens next is eliminating those 90% of things that we know are misclassified or drones that are just being used in compliance. It's finding consistencies in that other 10%. Okay, these drones are performing maneuvers that drones that we know of aren't capable of performing. They're in airspaces that they should not be in, and we can't detect them, right?
Is that the case right now?
No, it's not. At least that's not so far. That hasn't been the case, right?
Okay.
At least that's what we're being told, that hasn't been the case. And the only people that really know that are the people at the FAA and the government that are working. But if we're going by the information available, that has not been the case, right? So until we do have enough of those that are apparent, that are out of compliance, that are performing maneuvers that no technology we know that can do, and we can replicate that across various, sightings, it's kind of hard to make an interpretation of it. So I don't think it's anything nefarious. If it were nefarious, like most people say, they would be shot out of the sky right now. If it was a matter of national security, those things would be shot out of the sky. Is there a potential for psychological operations, sway public opinion on our defense capabilities, on our response to hostile or bad actor deployments? Who knows, right? Like part of my brain would love to say yes, because but the professional in me that lives in this world would just say we don't have enough data to make that decision yet, but I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility. deal. So that's where I stand on it. Until we can, further examine it and create, from a scientific standpoint, an approach where you create hypothesis, then you have an experiment, then you can replicate that experiment enough to that it becomes a law. We haven't reached that level of scrutiny on these sightings just yet. But it doesn't mean that the experiment won't lead to an outcome that we have a hypothesis on. So that's how I approach it.
Okay, so not aliens.
I don't know. That wouldn't be my first conclusion. But what I would say is, if we look at something more tangible, you look at this new chip that Google has that's able to calculate, a problem that would take 10 sextillion years or whatever it is, and a number that our brains couldn't even fathom. And we're able to do that in 5 minutes. And then they say the only logic that they have is that could come from a parallel universe kind of deal, right? And we're doing these experiments in Europe with smashing atoms together and creating all these who knows what really is happening? That's above my pay grade and my brain capacity right now to really make a decision on. But I'm curious. I am curious. I am curious. I am inquisitive, and I do read things that help to further my assessment of potentially what could be happening. But we need more data. That's my ultimate takeaway. Is we need more data before we make a definitive conclusion as to what's happening.
All right, I like it. Need more data. All right, So what's next for Promo Drone? You mentioned a couple of other things, the avenues that you're taking, whether it be search and rescue and, helping in other aspects. Like where do you see things going in the next, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years?
Speaking of data, becoming more of a data player. Recently, we just hit a milestone with our MVP for our AI development. So, we're talking facial detection that's able to look at a crowd while the drone's in the air, deploying a message, count the audience, give demographics, no personal identification information, no privacy concerns. We're talking, if I were in a field and there were 10 people in a field and I went out there with a pen and paper, I would count there's 10 people. I would estimate what their age ranges are, estimate how many are male or female. So with think demographic information for marketing, ROI, and analytic purposes. What type of people are looking at the ads? How are the ads responding, or resonating with these types of audiences? So demographic, psychoanalytic information that would allow marketers, advertisers to make smarter decisions on the type of content that they put out. No different than algorithms that are happening online. It's kind of a human-faced algorithm that comes out. So becoming more of a data player where we're able to leverage our drones in order to create those insights. And then that same data could be used to support public safety in other ways, like identifying officers and vehicles and things like that would allow missions to be performed more efficiently, more successfully. Ultimately, the more successful missions and operations leads to lower PTSD, higher success rates lead to higher quality of job performance, which leads to those law enforcement professionals making smarter decisions, and ultimately us having less of these PR nightmares of scenarios where people are, being killed or things, or something for no reason, right? Kind of stuff, things that we don't want to see happen. I'll give you a quick example of how drones are being used in a law enforcement sense today. And we're fortunate enough to be in an area where the Chula Vista Police Department, they're probably the most advanced, what we call DFR, drone as first responder network in the country.
Really?
So they have yes, absolutely. Wow. They've set the standard across the country for how you use drones as a first responder. And they've got tons of data. You can go to their website and they've made all this data public. None of this stuff is pay to play data. It's all available on how many incidents a drone responded to, what the nature of the incidents were, and what the operational outcomes were as a result of having those drones implemented. So one of the scenarios that they show, and this is all on the internet, was there was a call to the police department about a person with a gun, right? And we all know what happens: person with a gun, cops show up, and then there's some sort of action to mitigate that situation. Most times it's done in a lawful way. Sometimes, unfortunately, it's not. But nobody wants an innocent person to be killed or shot or detained that's not guilty, right? No one wants that. So what this drone was able to do once that call came in is they were able to deploy a drone out to this gas. It was a gas station or a restaurant, I think like a Mexican restaurant or a gas station. And there's a guy sitting there with what appears to be a gun in his hand, right? And this drone zooms in on it, and it looks like a gun. So they're ready to like deploy a unit out there. And then all of a sudden, this guy puts a cigarette up to his mouth. He pulls the trigger on the gun, and a flame comes out of the tip of the gun and lights his cigarette. So it was literally a cigarette lighter shaped like a gun, right? Now, I don't know why anybody would walk around with a gun-shaped cigarette lighter, especially in today's climate, but it was no need for cops to be deployed because it was not a weapon, right? So, and if they were deployed, they don't come aggressive and hostile, ready to, defend, so to speak. They're showing up to say, just to say, hey, we get it. It's not a lethal weapon. However, it can be misconstrued as one. You might want to just be aware of that because people are calling the cops about kind of stuff, right? As opposed to showing up, guns drawn, man with a gun, bang, someone's dead, and all the information they had was he had a gun-shaped object. So that's how drones are becoming part of these responses. And we see our drones, which have these, video communication tools on them, being part of that, crowd notification aspects, early warning systems, evacuations, forest fires, wildfires that we get a lot here in SoCal, and then the likes of the Floridas and Georgias that have these floods where they're not, cell towers are flooded out, the comms are gone. How do you connect people and let them know help is on the way? How do you give people important information to say, go this way, not that way? Don't run towards danger, run away from danger, right? There's only so many helicopters that can fly around an entire county or an entire, city. And we want to help those efforts. So ultimately, my passion has become helping to save lives, helping improve the information dissemination, and so that people can do their jobs better, and the people that are being responded to can feel better about the people that are coming to provide aid for them, right?
How do you think about privacy? And I mean, I know you have to, especially as you're talking about data and capturing people's images and faces. I'd imagine at events, it's one thing, right? Like you have to sign a waiver to go inside to this venue, and they could use your image for whatever. But then you're talking about capturing people's images just flying around the city. I mean, how do you guys think of that?
Yeah. So it's no different than if you were walking around with your cell phone and you have a right to record in public. There's no law, things you have a right. If you pull your cell phone out right now and you're at the beach and you're just filming, your kids play at the beach, all those people in the background, you now have their data. You literally, they're caught on cell phone, and you could literally go home and say, oh, that appears to be a woman, that appears to be a man, and make your, so we're within all the laws, right? The thing that we are very sensitive about beyond that is like, we don't capture any of your personal information. I don't know your name. I don't know your social security number. I don't know your address. I don't know what type of car you drive. We're not interested in that information. The only time that comes into play is when you opt in. Example, the drone's flying at an event or at a beach or somewhere, and it's doing some sort of promotion, and we're capturing AI analytics. And it says a message comes up on the drone that says, scan the drone, which could be a QR code on the drone. And it takes you to a website that says, because you interacted with this drone, enter into a chance to win, free hot dogs from Jane's hot dog stand, which is on the beach, right? But you have to put in your name and phone number and email so that they can contact you if you win. And then they have a disclaimer that says your information will be retained for marketing purposes, blah, 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 right? But you're opting in and you have the opportunity to make that decision. Otherwise, we're not interested in any personally identifying information about you. It's not relevant to the market that we're in. It doesn't create any additional value to what we do with that. Ours is literally, it's demographic, what's available through the naked eye, so we're not doing anything different than someone would be able to capture with a cell phone or with their naked eye. We're just able to quantify that information without personally identifying that person. So that gives us very clear operational structure around how we're around privacy.
Got it. So before we take off here, is there anything else? And we'll share all of your information, like where to find you on the show notes. So, is there anything you want to leave the audience with? Any words of wisdom, lessons learned? I know you dropped some gems here, but is there anything specific that you want to make sure that you get across?
Yeah, I would say, go forth and be fruitful, man. Like take the risk. What the risk is the biggest thing, man. Step out of your comfort zone and take a risk. Shoot your shot at life. Kind of deal. If you want it, you see it. I look at the likes of the Bill Gates and the some of the most successful people, the Elon Musk, and I'm like, they get up every morning, they breathe the same air. They gotta, they do the 3 S's just like we do, right? They put their pants on. They have the same 24 hours in the day, and they've managed to accomplish tremendous things. They're not superhumans, right? They have their way of doing it. And not saying that you need to be Bill Gates or Elon Musk, but you can be your version of them in your own world, even if it's touching the lives of other humans, even if it's being a foster parent to as many kids as you can to help, do that. If it's raising awareness on social issues, if it's helping to feed people, it could be whatever it is, but just be that, shoot your shot at being that person, that change maker in your world, no matter what that is. And that takes stepping out of your comfort zone, taking risks, and knowing that you're going to fail a lot more than you're going to succeed. But those successes push you a lot further than any of those losses ever will. So be prepared to go through it. Like you said, it's not a linear process. Be prepared for loops, hoops, turn, twists, going in reverse, blinders, rear view, shattered mirrors, like everything, right? The car will, even if it just sputters to the, it gets there, right? It's better than sitting back and envisioning what it would be like to be in the driver's seat, than to actually, being in one yourself. I'll take an old beat up rusted jalopy that I can push along and get to where it needs to be than to just sit back and envision me being in a Ferrari and never taking a step towards having anything, right? So
yeah,
I would say that take that first step, man, and believe in yourself while you're doing it too.
I love it.
It's easier said than done.
Yeah, but it can be done and should be done.
Yeah.
Jamar, thank you so much for your time.
Dustin, thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
I'd like to take the chance to introduce our audience to Mr. Lee Mills and his company Pixely. Pixely is the fastest and easiest way to document and collaborate on your projects with photos, videos, tags, tasks like punch lists, reports, and dashboards. Thousands of customers trust Pixely, from large hospitals, commercial real estate professionals, and every size contractor and field service professional. Try Pixely for free. Go to www.pixely.ai, and if you mention Dustin Sutton on your dropdown, you'll get 25% off. Again, that's www.pixly.ai and mention Dustin Sutton. Thank you very much. And now, here's the next episode of Tools, Talents, and Techniques.